Welcome to my channel! Learn with Teacher Ali!
Mathematics, Grade 2, Revised K-12 Curriculum, Quarter 2, Week 3, Day 1. Objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to measure lengths or distances in centimeters and compare lengths or distances in centimeters. Write your answer to the question in the space provided. What standard unit of measure did we study last week? What is the difference between length and distance? How do you measure the length or distance using the measuring tools? Can you give examples of lengths or distances that can be easily measured using the following tools? Today, we will learn how to measure and compare lengths and distances in centimeters. Here are some words that we could tackle during our lesson for today. Let's have a group work. Are you ready? Directions. Divide the learners into 5 groups. Assign each group a specific task and measuring tools. Tell them to get the measurements in centimeters. Give the learners enough time to do the activity. Once everyone is done, each group presents their measurements to the class. They can explain their process and share any challenges they face. Record their findings on a table. Now, answer the following questions. Was the tool assigned to you appropriate to use for the assigned task? Why or why not? What strategies did your group use to effectively measure the length or distance with the tool provided? Observe the table below and answer the following questions. Which is longer, the distance around the table or the length of the blackboard? Which is shorter, the height of the chair or the height from the floor to the windowsill? Which length or distance is the shortest? Which length or distance is the longest? If you are to arrange the measurements from longest to shortest, what will be the order? If you could measure anything else in the classroom or school, what would it be and why? Now, students, how did we measure length and distance? What standard unit of measurement did we use? How did we compare lengths or distances measured in centimeters? How do we know which length or distance is the shortest in centimeters? How do we know which length or distance is the longest in centimeters? How did we arrange the lengths or distances from longest to shortest or farthest to nearest? Answer the following questions based on the measurements provided in the table. Mathematics, Grade 2, Revised K-12 Curriculum, Quarter 2, Week 3, Day 2. Objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to estimate lengths in meters, measure lengths in meters, and compare lengths in meters. Answer the following questions based on the measurements provided in the table. Look at the wall inside our classroom. Make an estimate of the wall's length in centimeters. Now, I have here a meter stick. How many centimeters are in a meter stick? 1 meter stick is 100 centimeter. What if we use a meter stick to estimate the length of the wall? How many meter stick do you think represent the length of the wall? Today, we will learn how to estimate, measure, and compare lengths in meters. Here are some words that we could tackle during our lesson for today. The meter stick represents a standard unit called a meter. A meter is used to measure length and it is represented by the symbol M. One meter is equivalent to 100 centimeters. If 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeter, then how many centimeters are there in 2 meters? How about 3 meters and 4 meters? Let's measure the length of the front wall in meters using the meter stick. You can use the statement below if the measurement is not exact. May I ask a volunteer to measure the length of the front wall using a meter stick? May I ask a volunteer to measure the length of the side wall using a meter stick? Observe the table below and answer the following questions. Which is longer, the length of the front wall or the length of the side wall? Why? Now let's have a group work. Are you ready? Divide the learners into smaller groups and instruct them to bring out their show me boards. Direct the learners' attention to the length of the teacher's table. Ask the group to estimate the length of the teacher's table in meters. Let each group write their estimate on their show me board. Once the groups are done estimating, call one group to measure the length of the teacher's table using a meter stick. Record the findings in the table. If the measurement in the meters is not exact, do the following. Call another volunteer to measure the remaining length in centimeters. Commend the group that gave good estimates. You may reward them with points to encourage friendly competition. Observe the table below and answer the following questions. Which length is the shortest? Which length is the longest? What lengths are equal? If you are to arrange the measurements from shortest to longest, what will be the order? What standard unit of measures did we study today? What is the difference between a centimeters and a meter? What is the symbol for a meter? What tool did we use to measure the length in meters? How do you measure the length of an object using the meter stick? If the measurement is not exact in meters, how can we report the length? How do we compare lengths in meters? Study the illustration below. Estimate the length or height of the objects based on the illustration. Answer the following questions based on your estimates in Part 1. Mathematics, Grade 2, Revised K-12 Curriculum, Quarter 2, Week 3, Day 3. Objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to estimate distances in meters, measure distances in meters, and compare distances in meters. Study the illustration below. Estimate the length or height of the objects based on the illustration. What standard unit of measure did we study yesterday? What is the difference between a centimeter and a meter? What is the symbol for a meter? What tool did we use to measure the length in meters? How do you measure the length of an object using the meter stick? If the measurement is not exact in meters, how can we report the length? How do you compare lengths in meters? Today, we will learn how to estimate, measure, and compare distances in meters. Here are some words that we could tackle during our lesson for today. Now let's have a group work. Are you ready? Group the learners into 5 groups and distribute a piece of short bond paper to each group. Show the class a paper airplane and ask if they know how to make one or how to fly it. Briefly demonstrate how to make a paper airplane, guiding the groups as they follow along to create their own. First, fold the sheet of paper lengthwise and then unfolding it to create a center crease. Second, fold the top 2 corners down to meet the center crease, forming a triangle. Third, fold the triangle down so its tip meets the center crease. Fourth, fold the new top corners to the center crease again. Fifth, fold the paper in half along the original crease. Sixth, fold the top edge down on each side to form wings. 7. Ensure wings are even, then hold and toss your airplane. After making their own paper airplane, allow the groups to fly their airplanes and make any necessary adjustment for better flight. Mark a starting line at the back of the classroom for their launches. Instruct the groups to take out their show me boards. Call a representative from Group 1 to fly their paper airplane from the starting line. Once the airplane lands, ask the groups to estimate the distance from the starting line in meters. Each group should write their estimate on their show me board. After the groups have written their estimates, instruct them to raise their boards to show their answers. Call another representative from Group 1 to measure the actual distance using a meter stick. Provide guidance if needed to ensure accurate measurement. Record the result on the board as follows. Commend the groups that provided good estimates and consider rewarding them with points to encourage friendly competition. Repeat the process for Group 2 to 5, recording the result as well. Observe the table below and answer the following questions. Which group had the nearest landing to the starting line? How do you know it is the nearest? Which group had the farthest landing from the starting line? How do you know it is the farthest? Which groups have the same distance from the starting line? Arrange the distances traveled by the planes from nearest to farthest from the starting line. Discuss the arrangement of the distances. Now, students, what standard unit of measure did we study today? How do you measure the distance using a meter stick? If the measurement is not exact in meters, how can we report the length? How do you compare distances in meters? Study the illustration below. Answer the questions based on the illustration. Answer the following questions based on the measurements provided in the table. Write only the letter that corresponds to your answer. Mathematics, Grade 2, Revised K-12 Curriculum, Quarter 2, Week 3, Day 4. Objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to determine the appropriate unit of measure for the length or distance of objects and measure lengths or distances using the appropriate unit. Study the illustration below. Answer the questions based on the illustration. Answer the following questions based on the measurements provided in the table. Write only the letter that corresponds to your answer. What standard unit of measure did we study since last week? What is the difference between a centimeter and a meter? What are the tools we use to measure lengths and distances in centimeters and meters? Today, we will learn how to determine the appropriate unit of measure for the length or distance of objects. Here are some words that we could tackle during our lesson for today. Now let's have a group work. Are you ready? Divide the class into 4 groups. Prepare the following table on a sheet of Manila paper and post it on the board. Distribute a meter stick and a ruler to each group. Have each group perform the assigned task given to them. Once they are done, ask them to write the results in the table posted on the board. Have a class discussion afterward. Can you share your experiences measuring the distance assigned to your group in centimeters and meters? How do we address your difficulty of keeping the meter stick or ruler in a straight line when using it repeatedly? Observe the table below and answer the following questions. Are the values they got in centimeters different? How about the values in meters? Why did they get the same measurements in meters when the measurements in centimeters differ? We know that 1 meter is equivalent to 100 centimeter. Using this relationship, how many centimeters are in 7 meters? So, are the values taken by groups 1 and 2 equal to or close to 700 cm? Which of the two measuring tools is easier to use for determining long distance? Is a meter a larger standard unit of measure than a centimeter? So, which unit of measure is more appropriate to use for reporting long distances? For long distances, it is more appropriate to use meter as the standard unit of measure, but the distance can also be reported in centimeters. For teachers, show a ribbon that measures less than 1 meter, say 45 centimeter. I have here a ribbon and a ruler. May I ask a volunteer to measure the length of a ribbon? Now, can we use meter stick to measure the length of the ribbon? I have here a ribbon and the meter stick. What do you observe when I place the meter stick along the ribbon? So what does this mean? Can we use the meter stick to determine the length of the ribbon? What are your ideas? How would you determine the appropriate standard unit to use when measuring lengths or distances? Determine the appropriate standard unit for measuring the length or distance in the given illustration. Write the letter that corresponds to your answer. Mathematics, Grade 2, Revised K-12 Curriculum, Quarter 2, Week 3, Day 5. Objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to follow directions on the given test, answer the test correctly and honestly. Good job, everyone! End of Week 3.
Thank you for watching! Also, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell for you to be updated on our latest videos. See you on our next lesson. Goodbye!